Hello, I am Sunita. Welcome to my class. Here I am going to discuss Karnataka TET science topics according to the syllabus. Here I am going to discuss the topic gravitation. The universal law of gravitation, Newton's law of gravitation. This law we can call it as a Newton law of gravitation also. This law states that every object in the universe attracts every other object by a force that is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. According to this universal law of gravitation, every object in the universe, they will be attract each other, whether the object is small or big. It does not depends upon the mass of the object, but every small object in the universe, they will be attract each other. Then here the force of attraction between the object, it will be depends upon the two factors. First one is the force of attraction between the object is the directly proportional to the product of mass of the object. Listen here. Here consider one example. Here you are having two different objects. One is having mass m1, another one is having mass m2. The force of attraction between these two objects is directly proportional to the product of their respective mass. Here directly proportional means if mass of the object increases, then force of attraction also it will be increases. If mass of the object decreases, then force of attraction between the object also it will be decreases. Directly depends means if one is decreased, another one also it will decrease. If one is increased, another one also it will increase. Then here the force of attraction between the object, it will be depends upon the product of mass of m1 and also m2. Then next factor, the force of attraction between the object is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. What is mean by inversely proportional to? Means the distance between the object, if it is decreases, then force increases. The distance between the object, if it is increases, the force decreases. Then here inversely means if one is increases, another one it will be decreases. Then here consider the r is the distance between these two objects. Then the force of attraction between the object, these two objects, it will depends upon the square of the distance between them means, or it will depends upon r square. Then if you remove this proportionality, then you have to introduce one proportionality constant. Here we will consider as a capital G is the proportionality constant. Then F it will be equal to G into m divided by r square, where G is the universal gravitation constant. Here F it will indicate force of attraction between the object. G is the gravitational constant or proportionality constant. Then capital M is mass of one object. Small m is it will represent the mass of another object. Then here R it will represent the distance between the object. Therefore, this law we will call it as a universal law of gravitation. This is very important law. You have to remember. It definitely they will ask for TET exam. Acceleration due to gravity. What is meant by acceleration? Whenever an object is moving or in motion, then it will leads to change in velocity of an object. Change in velocity of an object is nothing but acceleration. Otherwise, that object it will get accelerated. Here, when an object is freely falling towards the earth, you know earth is having gravitational force. Because of that gravitational force, every object on the earth it will get attracted by the earth. Consider freely falling body. If it is moving towards the earth, then because of earth attraction, earth gravitational force, the object it will acquire a change in velocity of an object. Then if the object is changes its velocity, then it will acquire acceleration. Then the name itself it will indicate acceleration due to gravity. Because of the gravity, when a freely falling body it will acquire a change in velocity, Then the change in velocity, it will lead to acceleration. Because of the gravity, the acceleration, it will be go on changing of the freely falling body, that we will call it as a acceleration due to gravity. When an object falls freely towards the surface of the earth from a certain height, if the object is freely falling towards the earth from a certain height, then its velocity, it will be go on changes. This change in velocity produces acceleration in the object, which is known as acceleration due to gravity. Here the object, freely falling object, it will acquire acceleration because of the gravity of the earth. Therefore, that one we will call it as a acceleration due to gravity. It is denoted by the letter G. The acceleration due to gravity, its value is 9.8 meter per second square. You know, according to universal law of gravitation, F, it will be equal to G mm divided by r square. Here this G, we will call it as a gravitational constant. Then here small g, this one we will call it as a acceleration due to gravity. Then here this is gravitational constant G. Its value is 6.673 into 10 to the power of minus 11. Then this capital M, it will represent the mass of the earth. Mass of the earth is 6 into 10 to the power of 24 kg. Then this R, it will indicate the radius r, it will be equal to 6 into 10 to the power of 6 meter. Then this small m, it will indicate the mass of the object. If you substitute all this value, then you will get a acceleration due to gravity G. Its value is 9.8 meter per second square. This is the acceleration due to gravity, the acceleration felt by any free falling body towards the earth. This acceleration, it will possessed by any object if it is freely falling towards the earth. The value of G, this acceleration due to gravity, keeps changing due to the variation of earth radius. You can observe a slight variation in the value of acceleration due to gravity. This G value, it will be slightly vary because of the variation of earth radius. If the radius of the earth, if it is vary, then gravitational constant also, it will be vary. The moon revolution around the earth. The moon revolves around the earth due to centripetal force, which is the force of gravity of the earth. The moon, it will revolve around the earth because of the centripetal force. This force, it will act on the moon because the earth is having the gravitational force. You know, the earth, it will attract every object towards itself because of its having the gravitational force. Because of this force, the moon, it will revolve around the earth. What is mean by centripetal force? Any motion in a curved path represents accelerated motion and acquires a force directed towards the center of curvature of the path. You know, when the object is moving in a circular path, it will exert a acceleration. Because when the object is moving in a circular path, each and every point, it will change its direction. Because of the change in direction, the velocity of the object also, it will be go on changing. When velocity changes, normally the acceleration also, it will be changes. Any motion in a curved path represent accelerated motion. Therefore, any motion in the curved path, if an object is moving in a circular path or curved path, it will represent a accelerated motion because each and every point, the direction of motion, it will be changes. It will lead to change in velocity of the object. Then a force directed towards the center of curvature of the path. Then when an object is moving in a circular path, that object is directed towards the center of the earth because the earth is having gravitational force. Because of this force, the earth, it will pull every object towards itself. This force is called as a centripetal force, which means center seeking force, center itself, center seeking force. Therefore, the force has a magnitude, it has some value. Already I told the moon it will revolving around the earth. If the force of attraction between the earth and the moon ceases, if it is vanish, then the moon will continue to travel in a straight line path tangential to its orbit around the earth. Assume if you don't have any centripetal force, then the moon it will not revolve around the earth. Then the motion of the moon it will be a straight line. It will follow a tangential path tangential to its orbit around the earth. Means it will move directly. When if you are having centripetal force, the moon it will revolve around the earth in the circular path. If that centripetal force is not there, assume if any force is not there, even gravitational force also, centripetal force also not there, then the motion of the moon it will be tangent tangential to this circle, because it will move straight, it will not move in the curved path. You know, the moon it will revolve around the earth. What is mean by revolution? Revolution is nothing but the moon it will revolve around the earth. We will call it as a revolution. Revolution is almost approximately 27 days we will call. Then what is mean by rotation of the moon? The moon it will rotate about its own axis. This is the axis about its own axis. If the moon rotates, then that we will call it as a rotation of the moon. The moon orbits the earth once every 27.3322 days. It also takes up approximately 27 days for the moon to rotate once on its own axis. The rotation of the moon and revolution of the moon around the earth almost they are same. As a result, the moon does not seem to be spinning but appears to be observer from the earth to be keeping almost perfectly still. Scientists call this synchronous rotation. The scientists they will call this type of rotation synchronous rotation. The rotation of the moon and revolution of the moon around the earth almost both are same. Therefore, the moon, even though if it is rotating around its own axis, but it will appear still as the observer observing from the earth. Let us discuss the difference between weight and mass. So many they will get confused between weight and mass. Mass is how much matter an object contains. What is the quantity of matter the particular object contains? That it will decide the mass of an object. What is mean by weight? Weight is the force exerted on a mass by gravity. Weight is nothing but it will decide the gravitational force. The weight it will be not constant, because the gravity, how much the quantity of matter it will be attracted by the gravity, it will decides the weight of an object. Mass is a constant for a body and does not change with location. Mass it will be constant whether you are on the earth or moon or universe, it will be constant. But weight is not a constant, it changes from place to place, because weight it will mainly it will depends upon the gravitational force. The value of g it will decides the weight of an object. The weight of an object it will be vary whether you are in the moon or earth or in the universe. Therefore, it is not a constant, it will be vary. Normally, the weight it will depends upon the gravitational force. How much force the quantity of matter it will exert by the gravity, that it will decide say weight. The kilogram is a unit of mass, the kg is the unit of mass, the Newton is the unit of weight. Mass of an object is the measure of its inertia. Another word we can call it as a mass is the measure of inertia. Is constant throughout the universe. Mass it will be constant throughout the universe. Weight of an object keeps changing as the value of g changes. And already I told weight directly it depends upon the g. As the value of g changes, the weight also it will be changes. Weight is nothing but a force of attraction of the earth on the object is equal to mg. How much the object it is exerted by the force because of the earth gravitational, it will decide the weight of an object. Weight of an object on the moon is 1 by 6 times the weight on the earth. Here I am considering three situations. One is on the earth, on the moon, on the space. One thing you can observe here, mass on the three cases also it will be same. On the earth also mass it will be 10 kg, on the moon also it will be 10 kg, on the space also it will be 10 kg. But here see the weight, already I told weight it will be depends upon the gravitational force. On the earth the gravitational force it will be more, therefore mass and weight are almost equal. This also it will show in 10 kg. But on the moon the weight it will be 1.6 kg. Already I told the weight of an object on the moon is 1 by 6 times less than the object on the weight of an object on the earth. Therefore 1 by 6 times less means 10 kg here, then it will be 1.6 kg. Then on space you are not experiencing any gravitational force. When there is no gravitational force on space, then the weight of an object it will be 0. Then here weight 98 Newton, here weight 16 Newton, here the weight is 0. On space you are not experiencing any gravitational force. When there is no gravitational pull on a particular object, then normally the weight it will be 0. Thrust, force acting on an object perpendicular to the surface is called as a thrust. Effect of thrust depends upon the area of contact. Thrust is nothing but, consider here iron nail. You are applying a force on the iron nail. The force it should be perpendicular to the surface. Then that case we will call it as a thrust. Thrust it depends upon the area of contact. If you are contacting small area, then you are applying a force perpendicular to the surface, then the thrust it will be more. Therefore lesser area more thrust, more area less thrust. Then the SI unit of thrust is Newton. Pressure, the pressure is the thrust per unit area. The SI unit of pressure is Pascal. You know thrust is nothing but when you are applying a force perpendicular to the surface, we will call it as a thrust. But here pressure, thrust per unit area, when you apply a thrust per unit area, that one we will call it as a pressure. Force acting on a smaller area applies more pressure than the same force acting on a larger area. Then here, consider here you are applying a force to a smaller area, then the pressure it will be more. Because this the small area you are applying a more force means pressure it will be more. Here consider the area it will be more. When you apply more pressure, then here the pressure it will be distributed, then the pressure it will be less. As the area increases, pressure it will be decreases. As the area decreases, the pressure it will be increases. Therefore the thrust it depends upon the two factors. It depends upon the area also, it depends upon the force also, how much force you are applying on a particular area. Pressure in fluids. The pressure exerted by a fluid in a container is transmitted undiminished in all directions and especially on the walls of the container. Even pressure it will exert by a fluid also. Fluid also it will exert pressure in a container, especially on the walls of the container. Let us discuss next one, Archimedes principle. What is mean by this? Let us discuss in detail. When you put an object in a water or a fluid, then it will exert a upward force exerted by a fluid. That force we will call it as a upthrust or buoyant force. The upward force exerted by a fluid on an object, the upward force exerted by a fluid on a particular object is known as upthrust or buoyant force. The magnitude of buoyancy depends upon the density of the fluid. How much force it is applied by a fluid, it depends upon the density of the fluid. If the density of an object is less than the fluid, it will float. If the density of the liquid If the density of an object is less than the fluid, then it will float in a water. It will float on the upper surface of the water. Like for example, sponge. If you put sponge in a water, normally it will sponge. The density of sponge is less than the density of the fluid. Therefore, the sponge, otherwise the lighter object having less density, they will float in a particular fluid. Then, if the density of the object is greater than the fluid, it will sink. Assume, so throw a stone into a water, the stone it will sink into the water. Then the density of the stone is more than the density of the water, therefore it will sink in the water. According to Archimedes' principle, when a body is immersed fully or partially in a fluid, if you immerse a object fully or partially in a fluid, it experiences an upward force that is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by it. How much the buoyancy force it will exerted by the fluid on an object, it will be depend upon the weight of the fluid displaced by it. This one we will call it as a Archimedes principle. Consider here Archimedes principle. Here, take a beaker, fill the beaker with water, then immerse an object fully or partially immersed an object in a beaker. When you immerse an object fully in a beaker, then some amount of water it will come out from the beaker. This amount of water it will be equal to how much upward buoyant force. Already I explained according to Archimedes principle, how much amount of water it is displaced from the beaker, it will be equal to upward buoyantic force. What is mean by buoyancy force? When you immerse an object in a water or a fluid, then the fluid it will exert a force on the object, upward force, that is nothing but a buoyant force. According to this Archimedes principle, one thing you have to remember, volume of the displaced water it will be equal to upward buoyant force. Archimedes principle states that when a body is immersed partially or fully in a fluid, it experiences an upward force that is equal to weight of the fluid displaced by it. This it will be constant, it will be same if you are considering same weight of an object. If you are having different types of object, the volume of displacement of water it will be different. Kepler's law of orbits. It states that all the planets move in an elliptical orbit around the sun, and sun is present at the focus. According to Kepler's law of orbits, all the planets they will revolve around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and sun is at the focus. This shows that all the planets have elliptical shape having sun at its focus point. Here you can observe all the planets they will revolve around the sun in an elliptical orbit. This is the Kepler's law of orbits. Thanks for listening my class. Thank you.